The TIF board called to order. Want to call the roll of whoever's supposed to be here?
Who's calling, who's taking the minutes this
We
week?
got, Lynn's taking minutes.
Oh, Lynn is.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn can call the roll.
We
don't
don't
have
have
a
the roll,
list
I
of-
don't have a list
I have
of
a
the
list
new
of
members.
Well, I can
You know.
tell you who's here, so let's just
Yeah.
do the
That
present.
works.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Present.
Frank? Present. Paul Coogan, present.
Linda Pereira, present.
Cliff Ponte, present.
Absent is Chris Peckham. Approval of the meetings held on Tuesday, November
Motion
19th.
to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item number 3 is the tax increment financing amendment review and approval of Demoulas Supermarkets. Are you on Demoulas, Matt?
Yes, ma'am. These are copies for you that you might want to pass down. In 2016, the city and Demoulas entered into a TIF agreement that led to the construction of the Market Basket on William Canning Boulevard. Pursuant to the TIF, Demoulas was to invest $16 million in the construction and development of the property. They were to create 75 permanent new jobs and maintain them, and create and maintain 325 permanent new jobs, and they pretty much have done that. The reason we're before you today is very simple. It has to do with how the project was built. Originally, Demoulas had intended on buying 9.5 acres of land from the old Harbor Mall and developing the Market Basket on it. But as happens an awful lot these days, what they did is, to finance the development of that whole project, they did it as a condo. And so Demoulas didn't buy the 9.5 acres. What they bought was a condo unit that had had exclusive access rights to 9.5 acres. That's their parking area. So when the TIF was originally done, the agreement between the city and Demoulas was that the base value would be $2.4 million, or $2.14 million. And that was basically the value of the land at the time. And then the agreement was that there would be an exemption on the new construction. Once they switched, and that's how the agreement was signed and approved. About a year later, it went condo. Once it went condo, there was no more real estate value, because in a condominium, you don't assess the land differently. The land value is imputed into the value of the units. Because of that, it did away with the base, it inadvertently did away with the base value in this TIF. So what we're doing right now, and Demoulas has agreed to this, is to amend the TIF so that it brings the TIF language in line with what actually happened. There was no net change on any commitments by Demoulas. There was no net change on any commitments by the city on the TIF. It just replaces typically, and you'll see that in that draft, in 6 sections, it pretty much replaces purchasing 9.5 acres with purchasing Unit 2 and condominium parcel 2. The difference between Unit 2 and condominium parcel 2, Unit 2 is the building, condominium parcel 2 is that 9.5 acres of parking area. So what would need to happen is I would suggest that you approve this. It would go to the council hopefully will approve it, and then it has to go to the EACC, the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council. We're also going to be back to you at your next meeting on a similar one to this for the rest of the Harbor Mall, South Coast Marketplace, just to kind of clean it up. And so, like I said, this doesn't change anything, but it brings it in line. Theoretically, right now, Demoulas could apply for an abatement because there's no land value. And so and that's the part that's not covered by the TIF, by the exemption. So everybody's on the same page on this. It's to make everything go through. It's a technical change, but we have to do this to make things cross the T's and dot the I's.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the
Second.
finance amendment.
And there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda
Thank you.
is,
Have a lovely day.
thank you, Attorney Thomas, is the tax increment exemption review and approval for J&K Realty.
Okay, good morning, members of the TIF board. So I'm here on behalf of J&K Realty to request a tax increment exemption from the city of Fall River as it pertains to the redevelopment of the Adams House. As you may know, the Adams House is one of the most historically significant structures within the city of Fall River. It's not only noted on the local historical register, but also the state, as well as the federal historic registers. And as a result of that registration, that has helped facilitate the overall projected construction cost for the transformation of the Adams House from which was specialized housing for elders into 34 units of market rate housing within the city of Fall River. Specifically, the land upon which the Adams House is located has already been subdivided so that there are separate parcels from the Adams House. Those parcels that have been separated will be used for single-family development and not subject to any tie exemption language here. They will stand on their own and not be eligible for any sort of tie incentives. As I indicated earlier, the project itself is going to be, the building itself is going to be converted from residential care into market rate housing. There'll be 34 units. 26 of those units will be two-bedroom units, and there'll be eight one-bedroom units. They will be offered at market rate housing. 8 of the units will be workforce housing, but they also qualify for market rate rents. And the developers of the project are actually working with Mass Development and also Mass Housing to facilitate some additional financing for the project once it's fully constructed. One of the most important components of the overall capital stack for this project and subsequent projects is twofold. One, you got to receive the local tax exemption from the city, which gives you a break on the new real estate value that's being created. But maybe more importantly is that once you enter into this tax increment exemption with the city, this project will then become eligible for HDIP tax credits from the state. So if you look at the other market rate housing projects that we've done throughout the community, Commonwealth Landing, as well as the project right across from the post office on 3rd Street, also has received a similar tax exemption from the city, but they also received tax credits from the state. So when you're putting your capital stack together to help offset the overall cost of these projects, those types of incentives are important to make it work. In this particular instance, what we have here is an application that's going to be, do you have these here? The application is going to represent a projected tax increment financing schedule of 10 years. And you can see that you'll be able to see that the first 5 years of the proposed exemption will represent 80% in tax credit savings, tax value savings, and the remaining 5 years would represent 20%. These are the same sort of tax increment exemption schedules that have been granted for other projects. There's nothing different with this tie schedule as opposed to the ones that were previously approved by both the TIF board and the city council moving it forward. As you can see, when you look at this, and I should say that this is always a little bit of a guessing game as to what the incremental assessed value will be, because we don't know what that's going to be until it's actually assessed.
Right.
We take our best guesstimate as to what that's going to be. This $8 million valuation may be a little bit high, it may be a little bit low. Based upon some analysis that my office has done, we think it's probably in the neighborhood of where it's going to be. So, as with all projects, the taxable value of that land remains what it is. This is the new value that's being created there. So if in fact we do have an $8 million valuation for the project, you'll see that there'll be an overall exemption of $578,000 over an 8-year period. And they would also be paying $578,000 in taxes during that same period. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Jim Wallace is here as part of the development team, along with Bob Karam. And once again, we think that this project itself is in keeping with the overall housing development of the strategy to help facilitate market rate housing within the city, as evidenced by this project and other projects that have just recently been completed and other projects that are on the drawing board. There continues to be a very high demand for these types of projects. We estimated that the average monthly rent would be about $1,200 when you look at the difference between all the units. And then, that's subject to annual increases as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Viola, just for my own clarification, how many single-family lots are being built there as well?
I think is it
There'll
4?
be 4 lots.
4 lots.
4 lots?
Yeah.
And those aren't part of this?
They
This
are
is
not part of
specific
this.
to the Adams House?
That's correct.
If there are no questions, I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
All
For the
in favor?
record, I'd like to abstain from this vote.
Myself, Ms. Burrow, as well, I need to abstain from this vote.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez?
I'm good. Yes.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the TIF review and approval for Hutchinson Holding.
Yep, Hutchins Holdings 3 LLC. So this is an interesting project because the city can actually look at its relationship with this company back to 2006. 2006, I worked with the Hutchins brothers, Jay and Scott, to actually recruit this company into Fall River and help them get started through some loan assistance at that point. In 2006, they had 30 employees. I'm happy to report today that they have just about 400 employees. So you can see that they've grown significantly here within Fall River and providing job opportunities for residents in Fall River and throughout the surrounding area. They have filled a niche, and a niche that continues to grow for the city of Fall River, and that niche is within the food industry, whether it's seafood industry or whether it's blount soups up there. That particular segment of the economy continues to grow. It's sort of recession-proof in the sense that everyone needs to eat, both in good times as well as in bad times. And the Hutchins brothers have been great stewards in terms of growing their facility there and making sure it's being done in accordance with a well-thought-out process to not only grow, but also to add additional job opportunities for us here. So in this particular project, the Hutchins brothers, Jay and I have met over the summer. We talked about the project, and they had recently purchased 24.75 acres of land from the Redevelopment Authority to construct a 200,000 square foot cold storage facility within the technology park. It's estimated, and credit to the Hutchins brothers themselves, they always underestimate, but they want to be realistic. They don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So it's estimated to employ 30 to 40 people at this facility. The overall construction price is estimated to be $20 million for the project itself, and they're hoping to get a first or second quarter start during the 2021 calendar year. You can see I've given you a revised information on it because there's a couple of typos and a little bit of inconsistencies in the information that we previously sent to you. But overall, when you look at what they actually do and what they've done is that they're looking to not only meet the demand that's being presented to them in the controlled temperature warehousing marketplace, but they're doing that to help facilitate additional growth within the community, and also helping companies that are in Fall River and the surrounding areas, because a lot of these companies do have a need for cold storage. So it's easier for those companies to occupy space within these cold storage units in a facility that's closer to them as opposed to as being further away from them. In addition to that, the cold storage facility does not only hold seafood products, it also holds grocery perishable products itself. So it's constant activity, it's a good source of employment, and it's a good source of revenue for the company as they continue to move forward. So the city of Fall River had previously given them a TIF for the construction of their first cold storage facility, which was back in 2016. They have met all their obligations with that, and at that time, it was a facility that was only 80,000 square feet in size. This one here is 200,000 square feet in size, and as a result, it's a larger project expense. And in 2016, there's a 5-year TIF granted to the company due to the size of this particular project and the amount of private investment that's taking place here. I'm recommended to the board an 8-year TIF. You have that schedule before you that shows the breakdown in terms of how it's going to be structured, ranging from 100% tax savings the first year to 10% in the 8th year. During that time, they'll be paying over $1 million in taxes to the city, but they'll also be saving just over $900,000 in terms of savings to the city itself. So, again, I'm hoping that the committee will pass this. This is going to be, again, a very important piece to the overall capital stack for this project, because once again, approval of this TIF agreement here will also open the door to them for some state tax credits. Unlike the one with the previous project where you get the housing tax credits from DHCD, this here goes to the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, which will be meeting in December, and then they will make an allocation based upon their formulas there. And again, that's, be plugged into the overall capital stack to offset the cost of the $20 million that's being proposed as the construction cost itself. So I think it's in keeping with past TIFs that have been granted. It's not, it's not an exceptionally long TIF. I think these are somewhat conservative projections. We may get more jobs out of this. But again, it also helps facilitate other business growth in the park that may need cold storage. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We do have representation from the company itself. We have Scott Hutchins and we have Mark Leach here as well.
I got a question.
Yes.
I see in Raw Seafood's communication to us that they speak about the city's proposed Wilson Road sewer and water booster pump stations that will include restoration of the existing new sewer pump in the 1970s. Can anybody elaborate for me about what is actually happening over there? Is this a project that is ongoing, planning to begin? There's some concerns to
Maybe
that.
the mayor would like to elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's a Mass Works project. We put in a grant for it with Paul Furlan. Pretty sure it's going to get approved. It's one of those projects they wanted us to get involved with. It'll upgrade our water services through the entire industrial park, and it's something we're working on.
So the letter you have before you is actually a letter of support for the city's grant application to
Right.
Mass Works. And as the mayor had indicated, the improvements that are being proposed as part of the upgrade to the pump station here is not only going to improve the water service delivery, but also improve fire protection.
Okay, my other question is, I understand the property was purchased from the redevelopment authority.
Mhm.
Was it subject to receiving this TIF, or was it purchased
It
without?
was always, yes, it was, the TIF was always part of the overall strategy as part of the sale to the redevelopment authority. Obviously, it was not part of the purchase and sale, but it was brought up from what I can see from the minutes of the meetings and the discussions that were that were codified during those meetings, the TIF was always a portion of that.
Okay, thank you.
I got a couple of quick questions. How many construction jobs? Any idea?
I would think on a project of this size, you're probably looking between 75 to 100 construction jobs.
For how long? How long do they think?
You're probably looking for an 8 to 12-month construction cycle on this.
Okay. That's all I got, thanks.
The only question that I would have was, wasn't there something involved where, in the purchase of this land, that they also had first options on other land there? And I'm concerned that if we have other people coming in, and, you know, we have limited amount of space in the industrial park, you know, what is the flavor of raw seafood, you know, to give that back to the city so that we can develop it? Because if they're gonna be involved in this, that's gonna be taking up a lot of money.
Yes.
And even if you can't build now or use that land now, but if we could develop it and have a good neighbor
Yep.
for them, certainly not having somebody develop that does the same business that they do. I just think that I would be happier to be voting on this TIF. I'm gonna vote on it anyway, but that would be a sign of encouragement, like we're working together.
Yep.
Because I don't want a business to come in and us not have room for them. You know, that's my only concern. And I understand, I think from their perspective, it's a pretty good deal that you have free option on something. And if I was in their shoes, I'd want the free option. But my job is to represent the city, and I'm not offending you, Mr. Hudson, I'm just telling you, my job is to defend the city. And I'd push this more in the council. I don't know what the council's gonna vote on all these TIFs, but that would just show such a good neighbor piece, something for discussion afterwards. I certainly wouldn't hold this TIF up, because I wouldn't want it to seem like I'm handcuffing you
Right.
to give something back. I'm not. But just, we're in tough times, and if we have the opportunity to get another business in that can employ many of our residents, then
Right.
we don't have the opportunity there to do
So-
it. Just wanted to share that
Yeah,
thought.
so I'll
Ken.
just take a minute and maybe speak to that if I could. So,
Sure.
So I met with Jay Hutchins specifically on that issue, because obviously that had been an issue of concern for
Right.
us moving forward. They have a right of first refusal on a budding parcel of land. That's for a 2-year period. Then this was a deal that was negotiated by the previous redevelopment authority. I had nothing to do with it.
Correct.
That's a disclaimer. You know, I probably would have done it a little bit differently. Maybe other people would have done it differently, but they did it, and that redevelopment authority agreed to it at that time. So it was, like you said, good for them, you know. But I can tell you this, that these guys are honorable, straight shooting guys. And what I can't tell you is what their plans are for that. But if those plans do come to fruition for that abutting parcel, that's not only going to create more jobs within the city, it's also going to create more jobs within the industrial park. So after speaking with them and a better understanding what their long-term plan is for that, I think if it does come to fruition, I think it's going to be a win-win for everyone.
Good.
If it doesn't come to fruition, that land will most likely revert back to the redevelopment authority, and then they will.
When does the 2 years end?
In January of '22,
Oh, not far.
yeah. So, you know, like I said, these guys are very pragmatic. They approach things pragmatically. We need this for this, we need this for that, and that we're in this first phase of where they need that next stage of growth to be. And then I think over the next 12 months or so, the second phase of what they're projecting will come out, and I think everybody's going to be comfortable with it.
I'm fine with that, but my role here on the board is to
Perfectly
represent
understood.
the people of Fall River. I have to ask that. It's not,
Absolutely.
you know, don't want you to feel that I'm handcuffing you. I don't do that.
No,
But,
very
and
good.
and I'm glad to see, I know the Industrial Park Board has talked about at their meetings regarding the water supply
Mm-hmm.
up there. And I'm glad to see, happy to see that the mayor got that grant going with Ferlin
Yeah.
to do that, because even though you have a fire station pretty close
Mm-hmm.
to Industrial Park, if you don't have the water pressure there, there's a problem. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that that's moving forward.
And what's good about it is that this investment and the investment by our next TIF applicant,
Right.
when you're doing these MassWorks grants, you need to document that private investment, because that's what separates applicants from one another. So here we have two companies that are moving forward with growth, that are going to create jobs, that help support the city's application to upgrade that, so.
Good, and I've heard really good things about raw seafood, so I'm happy. Is there a motion?
Motion to
Any other
approve.
questions? I'm sorry. No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, there's a second, all in favor?
I need to abstain,
Thank you.
please. I would just like to make a comment that Mr. Hunson's organization has been a tremendous asset to the park and the city, and he has, and they have done everything they said they were going to do since day one. But I need to abstain because of DCED.
So if you could note that Mr. Michael abstained. Nice to hear positive too, Frank, thank you. Nice. I so like this.
They have a track record.
So nice.
And we just need to expound on their track record.
Yeah, I've heard
It's
great
been-
things
it's
as
been
well.
stellar.
The next item on the agenda is the TIF review and approval of CFOX Holding
Yep.
LLC.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank
Good luck.
It's been a great 15 years, and we
Keep
look
it
forward
up.
to many more. And you've got an open invitation. I know maps are a big part of our society today, but if anyone would love to come down and tour the raw seafoods facilities or the Ice Cube cold storage, we'd love to host at any time.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you all.
Good seeing
Thanks.
Can you send Captain Al in?
Huh?
Captain Al's coming in. Al, Captain, if you want to take a seat back there. Thank you. So this last TIF application is pertinent to Nantucket Sound Seafood. They will actually be the tenant occupying the space that's being developed currently under the company name of CFOX Holding LLC. That's just a real estate holding company, but the actual activity taking place within the newly constructed facility will be performed by Nantucket Seafood, Nantucket Sound Seafood. So, again, we have Captain Al Recanel with us today, and Nantucket Seafood, Nantucket Sound Seafood LLC owns its own boats and processes over 100,000 bushels of product each year. They regenerate 1.5 million pounds of meat, which is sold in custom orders for markets in and out of the United States, in addition to working closely with all governmental agencies. Nantucket Sound Seafood complies with all regulating agencies, including NOAA, SAFIS, and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. In September 2013, Captain and his and Laurie Rencarell, purchased 3.8 acres of land in the Fall River Industrial Park for a price of $225,000 for the purpose of constructing a 12,000 square foot building and employing 30 to 45 people. It's estimated that the overall building construction price is $1.5 million, with construction beginning in late December of the first quarter of 2021. They are currently located leasing space in New Bedford, so they'd be moving their operation from New Bedford to Fall River. The jobs that they're going to be creating are in addition to the jobs that are going to be moving over. He currently employs about 39, he currently has about 39 employees at his facility on South Front Street in New Bedford. But those people will be moving to the new facility upon its opening and operation. But over a period of time, the next 5 years, he'll be creating additional job opportunities within the city of Fall River. So once again, I'm before you today to ask that that the TIF board itself consider a 5-year TIF for the proposed project. We've estimated that the incremental assessed value to the property would be about $900,000. Again, that number will fluctuate a little bit based upon the actual assessed value itself. Throughout the 5-year period, if we were to grant him this 5-year TIF based upon 100% the first year, 75, 50, 25, and 10% of savings during that 5-year period of time, would afford the company just about $71,000 in tax savings, and during that period of time, there's also annual taxes due to the city would be $66,117. Again, this company reflects what I was talking about earlier with the Hutchins project and Raw Seafood, with this cluster of seafood companies and food processing companies. They're all starting to recognize the advantages of locating in Fall River. People have come to the realizations that you don't need to have these processing facilities right at the docks anymore. You can transport the product from the dock to the processing facility. Those facilities are popping up in Fall River. Fall River tends to be a better distribution point for product than even New Bedford, which may be 15 miles to our east, but 15 miles in the overall transportation, it starts to add up over a period of time. So I'm excited about this company. I'm excited about all of them, but I always like to get excited if the smaller companies that are coming. This sort of reminds me of could be another Raw Seafoods where you come over and you have 30 jobs, and all of a sudden over a period of time, it continues to expand, right? So these types of projects, are very important. They may not be of the large scale as some of the other projects we discussed, but in my opinion, they're equally important. Once again, they participate in what I consider to be a recession-proof industry, and that's the food industry. And then, lastly, I think it's just another mix in the overall differentiation of companies with the industrial park. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and Captain Al could also chime in if I don't know the answers.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
I'm just happy, and I welcome Captain Al, and, not that I want to take things away from New Bedford, but boy, I'm really happy that you're on board in Fall River, and we welcome you. I wish you nothing more than success. And I have to agree with Mr. Faiula. I'm happy when it's smaller companies too. Bigger companies tended to make money, they have more money, they can invest more, money brings in money. But to have, a smaller company getting in there, getting the help to develop into a larger company, like I said, I wish you nothing but success and welcome to the city of Fall River.
Thank you.
Same thing, welcome.
Is
Welcome.
there a motion to adopt?
Motion?
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I am abstaining, but I will go on record that I would like to take jobs away from New Bedford.
Thanks, Frank.
All right.
Any new business to discuss? Any old business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.